All right, let's dive right in. You've probably been hearing these three names nonstop: Grok, Gemini, and GPT. It feels like they're the big three in the AI race, right? Well, something massive has shifted right under our feet. A fundamental change that has split the very ground they stand on. Today, we're going to break down this huge change, the reasoning split. Okay, so take a look at this quote. The monolithic era of large language models is over. This is a huge deal. It's basically saying that the time of having one giant AI model that tries to do everything, well, that's done. The game has totally changed. It's fractured. And this fracture has created something new, a concept we're going to dig into today called the reasoning split. So, what is the reasoning split exactly? Well, for the longest time, the whole game was about training time. It was like building the biggest possible library. Just cram more books, more data into it before you ever open the doors. But now, the game has flipped to inference time. That's the moment you walk into the library and actually ask a question. The real innovation isn't the size of the library anymore. It's about having a team of specialized librarians who know how to find the answer for you, right there on the spot. It's all about how the model thinks, not just how much it was trained on. And that brings us to our first big point. This isn't just about making a better chatbot to talk to. No way. We're talking about the birth of totally different kinds of brains, specialized engines built for completely different jobs. Yeah, the old battleground, it was all about who had the biggest number, the parameter count. That was the whole contest. Well, that era is over. The new fight is all about the process of thinking itself. It's not about having the answer memorized anymore. It's about having a solid, reliable way to figure out the best answer and, crucially, to check its own work. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at three totally different philosophies that have emerged. Let's personify them. It makes it way easier. Think of Gemini 3 as the careful, methodical scientist. Then you've got Grok 4.1, which is like a giant, overwhelming swarm. And finally, GPT-5.1, the super efficient strategist. Each one has a completely unique way of tackling problems. First up, the scientist. This is Google's Gemini 3. Now, if you remember AlphaGo, the AI that totally dominated the game of Go, Gemini uses a technique inspired by it. It's called Monte Carlo tree search, or MCTS for short. Just picture a chess grandmaster in your head. It's not just seeing one move ahead, it's exploring all these branching possibilities, thinking, if I do this, they might do that, and cutting off all the bad paths until it finds the absolute best one. All right, now let's do a complete 180. Meet the swarm. This is Grok 4.1 from xAI. Instead of one really smart brain thinking hard, Grok just unleashes an army, a committee of agents. Imagine one agent is writing code while another one is looking over its shoulder, critiquing it, and a third one is already running tests on it. They're all working at the same time, in parallel. It's just a brute force collaborative attack designed to completely overwhelm the problem. And our third player, the strategist. This is OpenAI's GPT-5.1, and it is all about being smart and efficient. The best analogy is a traffic controller for thoughts. Your question comes in, right? A little classifier immediately looks at it and decides, is this an easy one? If so, boom, it goes down the express lane for a super fast answer. But if it's tricky, it gets routed to the thinking pathway, where a much deeper engine takes over. The whole system is built to save time and money by using just the right amount of brainpower for each specific question. So okay, these three different ways of thinking, the scientist, the swarm, the strategist, they're not just abstract ideas, not at all. They are creating completely new battlegrounds, and the consequences are huge. We're seeing these separate ecosystems pop up, and in these ecosystems, getting you locked in isn't an accident. It's the entire point. And this creates a huge headache for developers, a real dilemma. I mean, look at this. When you pick a model now, you're not just picking an AI. You're basically getting married to an entire engineering platform. Go with Gemini, and you're all in on tools like anti-gravity, where you're describing whole applications just using words. Pick Grok, and you're leveraging its insane context window to refactor entire code bases at once. And if you go with GPT, you're probably plugging into the Azure ecosystem to build these super-fast, enterprise-grade services. And that choice connects directly to another huge battleground. The context wars. You hear context window a lot. It's basically the AI's short-term memory. But here's the key. Not all memory is the same. Gemini has what's called a 2 million token active context. That's like it's holding and actively thinking about a dozen novels worth of information, all at the same time, in its head. Grok and GPT, they have big windows too, but they work more like a search engine. It's more like quickly looking something up in a filing cabinet instead of just knowing it. And that is a fundamental difference in how they think when you give them a ton of information. Okay, so enough with the theory. How do these things actually stack up against each other? Let's get to the numbers. We're going to look at the scoreboard and see how this all plays out in the real world. First up, a benchmark called Humanity's Last Exam. And look at this. When you let the models use tools, Grok Swarm just takes off. It scores a 50.7%. That committee of agents all working together, debating, using tools, it gives Grok a serious advantage when the tasks get complicated and require action. But then, watch this. You switch over to visual reasoning and the whole story just flips on its head. Gemini 3 is in a league of its own, a 45.1% score. That's not just a lead, it's a massive, crushing lead. And the reason is simple. Gemini is natively multimodal. It doesn't just look at a picture and describe it, it actually thinks in pictures. It applies that same deep chess master-style thinking directly to visual problems. And that native ability to handle different types of data also translates to a huge win in voice. We're talking real-time conversations. Gemini Live 2.0 has a latency of just 350 milliseconds. Now, to give you some context, anything under about 700 milliseconds feels natural to us humans. So this is incredibly fast. And it's because it's processing the raw sound of your voice, the tone, the emotion, not just a flat text transcript. Then there's the whole safety and alignment thing. And here, they are worlds apart. You've got Grok on one end of the spectrum, which is designed to be the least restrictive. It'll refuse to answer less than 1% of the time. Then in the middle, you have GPT, which is kind of adaptive. It has trust tiers, so it's a bit more flexible for enterprise customers. And then way over on the other side, you've got Gemini. It is by far the most conservative, putting brand safety above all else. Which means, yeah, sometimes it'll refuse a perfectly harmless but complex question just because it's not 100% sure of the outcome. Okay, this final scoreboard kind of ties it all together. Just look at that first row, HLE, but this time with no tools allowed. Take away Grok's Swarm, and it really struggles. But Gemini, it shines, hitting 41%. That shows you the power of its core reasoning engine. And you see that same story with the super hard science questions in GPQA Diamond. Gemini's way out in front. And then, right at the bottom, you see that context window difference again. Active versus passive. It really hammers home just how different these machines are, right down to their very architecture. So where does this all leave us? Well, here's the bottom line. Picking your AI engine is now a massive strategic choice. The whole idea of looking for the one best model is dead. It's not about that anymore. It's about finding the right type of thinking for the specific job you have. So, I'll leave you with this question. The real question isn't who's gonna win. It's which one is right for you. Now that AI is splintering into these specialized minds, you have to decide. For your next big project, what do you need? Do you need the deep-thinking scientist, the brute force swarm, or the fast and efficient strategist? The choice is yours.